Today's lesson is all about Leonardo da Vinci. He's one of the best examples from history of a pioneer, innovator or developer, and so a great place to start our new topic. The first thing to do is to pause the video and have a quick think about the question there. What images do you recognize? Okay, so hopefully you've had the chance to pause the video and look at some of the images. You should hopefully recognize the Mona Lisa. This is a very famous painting. It was done by Leonardo da Vinci, but he was almost famous for other things as well. So he produced other very famous bits of work of art like the Last Supper. He also had lots of inventions like the parachute or this huge crossbow, many of which didn't actually get produced until much longer after his death. He was so far ahead of his time, but you may even have heard his name from popular culture because he was one of the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. So this is what we expect you to learn throughout this lesson. Let's just focus in the first instance on what you should all be able to do. You should be able to list some of his achievements, at least 3 of them, and describe 2 of his key inventions or achievements in some detail. I'd expect a lot of you to be able to do a bit more than that. So for example, can you describe his life with a range of facts, not just focusing on one particular area, for example, his artwork? And can you also explain how 2 of his inventions helped improve knowledge or technology? So that's not just giving facts, but it's actually explaining the impact of his ideas. And lastly, some of you might think about, what does this word mean? Was he a Renaissance man? And also, can you show how his inventions have benefited not just the world in the past, but today's world that we live in as well? So, first thing to do before we go into the topic about Leonardo da Vinci is to have a think about the period that he was living in, the Renaissance. It's not something that we've got time to discuss in great detail, so you can pause the video now and just have a quick think about each of these questions. You may even want to do some research before you go any further. Okay, so let's just have a quick think about some of these topics. Firstly, what does it actually mean, the Renaissance? Well, the word itself is French and it means a rebirth. Specifically, that was a rebirth of classical thinking. So during this period, people started to think a little bit like they did in ancient Roman and Greek times. And specifically, that meant observing the world yourself to learn what works best. And it's what they started doing during the Renaissance. And that period was the 1300s to the 1500s. So it's quite a long period of history, and it didn't start on a specific day or necessarily in a specific place. But it did start primarily in Italy and then spread further. And the reason why it started in Italy is because it was the home of the old Roman Empire. So they were surrounded by ancient Roman monuments and manuscripts and being inspired by their own history. So why did it actually happen? Well, during this period, powerful Italian city-states were competing against each other, and that drove new ideas and a desire to be better than your neighbours. So for example, giving people like Leonardo da Vinci the money and the resources they needed to produce these wonderful pieces of art. There were other reasons as well, like the church was starting to become less powerful at this time, which meant that people could start developing new ideas. And also they were able to share their ideas better than before with new inventions such as the printing press. So when we think of the Renaissance, who we're talking about? Well, we mentioned Da Vinci, but you'll also be learning about some other names like Christopher Columbus, and you may remember learning about Andreas Vesalius in the past as well. So there you are. You're ready to start today's lesson all about Leonardo da Vinci. You're going to jump into the Renaissance period, and you've got 2 key things to do next. Firstly, learn more about who he was as an individual, and then secondly, research and write about 2 of his inventions or innovations. And just a reminder, you should be able to describe them with some good detail, but also really try to understand how they impacted not just life at the time, but also the world that we live in today. Good luck.